You're listening to Learning Curve, the podcast that filters out the AI snake oil and offers authentic use cases to deliver real insights you can take into your projects. I'm Matt Sharp, Flexion's Chief of AI, Tamer of the Machines, and Server Overlord.
And I'm Holly Fake, easy button designer, idea detective, and the one whose soapbox is constantly about humans and their needs. I talk to real peoples about tech so we can stop building stuff no one wants to use.
Curious about weaving AI into your own day-to-day workflow? Stick around. We've got some real talk coming your way.
In the next few episodes, we will be bringing in different people from our organization, each with a different role, each experimenting with AI in unique ways. From AI agents to large language models, we're asking how these tools are being used on the ground, what's working, what's still weird, and what's unexpectedly delightful.
Also joining us today is Kevin Varga. Kevin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be on here. Appreciate the invite. Yeah, I'm Kevin Varga. You can also refer to me as I'm a cat dad, D&D nerd, F1 enthusiast, and guy with way too many hobbies. But yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Really great to have you on. Can you tell us a little bit about your role at Flexion?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been here for about 2 years now, a little over 2 years. I'm a senior software engineer working on modernizing uh, Medicare and Medicaid claims currently. And within that, I've been working with AI as much as possible ever since it's kind of gotten started. I've kind of seen the beginnings of it where you're just kind of using Chat GPT as a Google search to now where we're using agents and all the craziness that's going along with that.
Yeah, so 2 years following kind of these AI trends and tools. That I know you've been here for like kind of the full transition. Could you tell us more about that journey?
Yeah, definitely. It is kind of crazy that like my timing of being here at Flexion kind of coincided with this AI jump that's occurred. And it's been really good because Flexion has been so, forward with it and like wanting to, experiment with it and like move forward with experiment, like trying out different ways to use it and see what works, what doesn't. And so currently the way we use it is like it's pretty much in every facet of our work right now, with helping us write stories better, with helping us write code better, tests, just different ways to try and minimize the amount of like repetitive work that we're doing and more focus on like the work that needs us to think a little bit harder that the AIs still aren't 100% as good at. Um, but yeah, it's just crazy to see like when you first started using this, like I said, it was kind of more like a Google search replacement or Stack Exchange replacement. And now I mean, it's still very useful for that as well. But now it's like your own coding buddy as well on top of that.
So there's a lot of talk about agents, and I guess I'm thinking about maybe some of our audience members who are less familiar with what an AA agent is. Could you tell us a little bit about what they are and what they're good at?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of things that they can do, but essentially you can give it a specific context and um, be like an expert in a certain field or topic. And then the agent, uh, based on your prompting, will go out and start querying, accessing your tools, doing different things for you. It's more than just like a search. It'll actually start like modifying files and, accessing your terminal and stuff like that. Um, and you can if you really want to, you can start chaining your agents so agents work with each other. That's a little bit more complex, but that's kind of the gist of it. And agents are good, I would say, with like more simple coding tasks, and they're getting better at complex ones as well. Um, but they can easily get overwhelmed, I would say, as well. There's still the context issue that a lot of these AI companies are trying to figure out and make better. And I would say it's getting better week by week. there's different tools out there you can use to help with the context problem. But yeah, I would say they're really good at really well-defined tasks.
So, can you tell us a bit about how you're using those AI agents?
Yeah, definitely. So uh, currently, there's a few different ones that we kind of have. Um, or that I personally have. We have some that we share within our team, and then kind of just ones that I've created on my own. So, for example, one kind of fun one that I have that I keep for my own personal life is I do a fantasy football like pick 'em every week, where you pick like who you think's going to win. And you just kind of get like you put $5 in, whatever you win, like $20 each week. Um, I create an agent that like goes out and like looks at the Las Vegas odds and like like looks at matchups and stuff like that to kind of help me do some of that instead of having to manually look at that stuff myself. So that's like one of the kind of fun ones that we've been doing. But for more like personal work experience, like we have ones where it's like kind of like a Java expert agent. So one that will really focus on making sure your Java code is, following the right standards, or one that's working on like test integrations and making sure your tests are in the right format, stuff like that. So I'd say those are the ones that we're using a lot right now at work. But there, and we have another one for like helping us write stories, or like, refining them when we're doing our, what we call like an SDAT process, but that's basically just like diagramming when we pick up a story and tasking it out, stuff like that.
You
Interesting.
mentioned, oh, go ahead, Matt.
I was just gonna say, so are you winning a bunch of money and you
I wouldn't say that just yet.
all right, so not necessarily the best pickers, but it might save you a lot in your fantasy draft.
Yep, exactly.
You mentioned different tools work better than others. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's one of those things where like you kind of have to know which ones work better in certain areas. Like, for example, there's some AI models out there that are really good at creative writing and some that are not. And like, so it's pretty similar with, coding. Some are good at coding, some are not. Like, so the ones that we've used a lot here at Flexion so far are Claude. Like right now, the one we've been using a lot is Sonnet 4.5 or Opus 4.1 for more thinking related tasks. But then, we've been using Gemini here as well. We use ChatGPT. Their codex models are actually really good. So it kind of just depends on like what you want, and some are better with Java, for example. So some can be really good at coding, but maybe not as good as Java, or one is really good with Python or something like that. You just kind of have to play around with it and see what results you can get.
You mentioned earlier that you've kind of been building some AI agents. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So luckily, there's you can use AI to help you make your agents. Essentially, agents are just another context file. A lot of times you'll see a context file in a repo that kind of just describes what this repo is doing, and like, some examples and stuff like that. That's kind of what an agent context file is, but it's more defined to what it should be doing. Um, and so, yeah, we have like these agents that will kind of be in its own file, and well defined and stuff like that. And so Cloud Code actually has a feature where you can tell it to build a X related agent. So you can have it be like, I want you to do a Java expert related agent. I want you to do whatever. And it'll create that for you, and then you can refine it yourself, or whatever from that point on.
That seems really useful.
Yeah, and one part that it really does help with is the context that I was mentioning earlier. That agents have their own context from within your still current running Claude Code window. So you can tell it, like, I want you to use the Java agent to go do something, and it does that without exploding your context and using all that. So that's really nice.
So I've been using agents, building agents, using different tools, using different models, lots
Yeah.
of experience. What do you wish worked better? Are there any failure stories?
Yeah, a lot. Um, as much as I love using these tools, there's a lot you find out that it's still having to get better at. Um, like one issue that we've run into before is with certain tests. Sometimes if it doesn't know how to write the test, um, it will like do some really hacky way of trying to make those tests pass. For example, one that I had not that long ago was it did some work for me, but it didn't get 100% code coverage. In our project, we try and keep 100% code coverage, and so I like prompted it. I'm like, hey, try and keep 100% code coverage. Instead of actually going and fixing that, it tried for a little bit, it couldn't do it, and then it went and updated our file and changed 100% code coverage to 99%, and it said, oh, look, it's all passing now. So stuff like that. uh it's like the problems when it keeps like repeating, I would say, are the biggest issues right now with the coding tools.
How did you discover that? It's like, did it alert you that it had changed the code coverage, or was it something you had to dig into?
I mean, I think it did write it somewhere. It blurred it out like this giant thing of why it was not working. But then I just had to actually like go look at like what changes it did. And I'm like, wait, why is there a change in my Gradle file? There's nothing that it should have changed in there. And sure enough, I saw the line where it changed that.
One thing I'm kind of curious about. So I've played around with, I think it's like an agent where you fill a chat GPT instance with all of these different resources and you say, think based of only these PDF documents or only these
Mhm.
presentations. Would that count as an agent?
Um, it doesn't sound like it, uh, but maybe some way. I'd have to see like how exactly you're doing it. I would say a lot of the big tools nowadays like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, they do a lot of stuff now that are more agent-like. They can create files within them. They can look at stuff now. So they're getting better at doing some of that stuff that your agents can do. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like it was close.
Great. And like, what would make it closer, I guess? And maybe that's too hard of a question to answer. Matt, I'm curious from your perspective.
So generally, the general term for agent is just an LLM that has access to tools. So even your most basic would just be a web search, which generally, ChatGPT will often just go do web search. If you ask it a question, it doesn't know. And so most things are agents now, which, I do think, as with most things in data, you know, definitions change. And generally, people expect an agent to do a lot more than just maybe web search. And so it's kind of an evolving term where, it's like, well, agent should do more, but the current definition says it needs to do less. And so there's an aspect where marketing often wants words to mean less, but sound like they mean more. So there's this, everyone wants to say they have agents, even if that agent doesn't do much. This reminds me back in the day when a lot of people want to consider logistic regression machine learning nowadays, but you know, 15 years ago when machine learning started to come around and people started doing data science, it was like, oh, we do logistic regression, we do AI. So, it's it's just kind of how it's somewhat more of a marketing term than other things. But an aside, uh, so how do you use a you gave that one example with the football. Uh,
Mhm.
so outside of work, how else do you use AI?
Yeah, definitely. So another kind of like fun example and something I mentioned in my intro is I love D&D. And I'm a DM for a campaign. And one of the things, if there's any DMs currently listening to this, is you know, there's a lot of rules in D&D. And there's a lot of conflicting reports of like what you should do and what you shouldn't do. A lot of times you have to make your own decisions on what just makes sense to you. But also you just try and want to be as like accurate as possible sometimes. Um, and instead of like pausing your game and like being like, okay, hold on, let me like look through the pages or let me Google something or whatever. I wanted to build, and I'm still currently working on a tool where it's kind of just going to like try transcribe as the session's going on. And if I get to a point where there's like a rule clarification moment, I'd be able to, kind of maybe select some of the text or just tell it like to clarify this most recent thing that came up, and it would like go and like either check some of the source material, check like online searches, stuff like that, to try and come up with a quicker way of searching up for some of those rules that otherwise would kind of maybe bring your game to a halt.
When you first told us that story, it just made me laugh because I was like, that's amazing. He must seem like this incredible dungeon master that he just has all the answers at his fingertips. W-
I hope my players think that too.
Is there a time like that or like something you can point to where your interactions with AI have been unexpectedly delightful?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like there's a lot of times I've used it kind of for personal self-reflection before. Um and like I just want to like throw this out there, like you have to be careful with how you use these AI tools for that. But they can be good with stuff like this. If you prompt it correctly and give it if you know what you're going in for, and stuff like that, it just kind of like responds to you in a more nice way than sometimes you would like talking to somebody or like looking something up online. Like for example, I mentioned earlier that I've used AI before instead of Stack Exchange. A lot of developers that have used Stack Exchange, and I'm sure have posted on Stack Overflow and asked a question, have gotten responses of, why are you asking this? Somebody's asked this. And then they close your thread and link you to something that wasn't even that related to your question. And then you just feel even more frustrated, where AI doesn't do that for you. So, yeah.
So, any tips for others similar to that tip, interested in integrating AI into their day-to-day workflow?
Yeah, I would say it's honestly just experimenting. Um, like you can do a lot of, there's a lot of people out there right now that are like trying to make a buck off of like telling you what's the best way to use AI to integrate your workflows and all that. And like, sure, you can try some of that stuff, but I think the best way is honestly just like get your hands dirty a little bit, try stuff out. I would say if you're ever working with something and you feel like, man, this is repetitive, I feel like there's just a better way to do this. That's probably a pretty good use case for something like AI related. And then just try stuff out. Do something simple with it. It doesn't have to be something super fancy, but just try something super simple out. Ask an AI agent, like, hey, can you, or like ask ChatGPT or whatever, like, I have this problem. Can AI help me with this? And a lot of times it gives a pretty good result with that.
I think we can kind of wrap up here. So, here's what we're walking away with. Um, AI has improved a lot over the 2 years. Uh, Kevin has kind of seen it all from copying code into ChatGPT to now using agents to write code. Uh, it's progressing fast and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. If you're not playing around with it, that is one of the best things you can do to start learning, what these things are good at, what they're bad at, and don't be afraid to take it outside of your work and use it in a D&D campaign or, you know, beat your friends in fantasy football. There's lots of options here. So that's a wrap for today's episode of Learning Curve. If you enjoyed this conversation, do us a favor, subscribe, share it with your team, and maybe even your favorite dungeon masters so they can match Kevin's extreme dominance in the realm.
The realm. And don't miss our next episode. Until then, I'm Holly Fake.
I'm Matt Sharp. Thanks for tuning in to Learning Curve. Keep experimenting, keep asking better questions, and we'll see you next time.